concept was silly, ridiculous, a waste of time. They didn't want. That's why they were so successful. That's why they got away.
I made a living in very dangerous.
Welcome to Dianne Andrews in Black and White. We're still here in the Washington, D.C. area. And then today we're at the National Press Club in Washington, D.C. Again at another Whistleblowers function. As you know, Dianne Andrews in Black and White is in 3 to 4 million homes, depending on whether we're in Houston filming or in D.C. or where we're filming. We're going to be seen on Cox, on METV, on CW, and these shows out of D.C., the Whistleblower shows, will be seen also on D.C. cable here. So that show will probably be seen in over 4.5 million homes. So I want to thank a person who's sitting next to me. I've been on her show, her radio show, TS Radio out of Minnesota. Marti Oakley.
Yes.
And Marti is an advocate for whistleblowers. She's just an advocate for doing the right thing. I call myself, Marti, a truth seeker. I'm here to seek the truth as you are. Marti, let's hear about why you're here. How long have you been dealing with whistleblowers? This is my 4th year.
Yeah. I've been doing whistleblower shows specifically on Thursday nights every week for about 4.5 years.
I think I've been on your show 3 times. I did Alton Sterling with you.
Yes.
I did the $7 of the Klan, that show that I broke of the Klan.
Yes.
And then I was on something else.
Yes.
Was it the
Deborah
Farmers?
Taylor.
Deborah Taylor. Yeah, I was on with Deborah. Yeah.
Yes.
Who was a lady who was seeking the truth, a white lady who wanted her father's legacy to be known, that he killed. He was a member of the $7 of the Klan. The most heinous group of the Klan. He killed black people, this group did, in Fairley and Natchez, Mississippi. And he tried to rape her.
Yes.
So this white lady was looking for the people to help not justify, but to make herself and to make the person know that she's sorry for what her father did. And I was the first one to have her meet Mr. David Oakley.
Yes.
And he is the one who desegregated Fairley High, and her father tried to bomb him along with CORE, the Congress of Racial Equality, Roy Ennis, and it didn't designate. It's the only reason Mr. Watley is still living today. It was very terrible.
I don't know about you, but I go back to, I'm a little older than I'd like to admit, but we are. But I can remember back in the 70s having moved out of the Midwest to Atlanta. And it was like,
Are you from Minnesota originally?
No.
Oh, okay.
But it was like moving into another whole country. The culture was so different. I had a good friend named Shirley. She's a black girl. And we were just tight.
Yeah.
And they were having a big protest at the intersection.
You're American Indian, aren't you, Marti? Your heritage,
yes,
some of it, yes.
What is it, show?
I think you told me once.
We were at a protest, civil rights protest at the intersection of Ponce de Leon and Peachtree Boulevard. And I remember standing there with her. And this racial thing at this time, I don't understand it all these years later. Why are we still dealing with this crap? But I remember standing there, and we were faced with the Ku Klux Klan and a bunch of redneck hillbillies, and scared to death.
Right.
And feeling her shaking next to me, I was holding her hand. I looked over, and tears were running down her face. And I thought, this is how she feels every day of her life.
That's right.
And I grabbed her. I said, we're going up front. She said, Marti, they'll kill you. I said, we are going up front. And because I was crazier even then.
Right.
So anyway, we went up front, and I got called names. I had one man try to urinate on me. People spit on me and everything else. And I got my licks in
It's
too.
so many untold stories of what went on
And
down south.
When that lady came on with you, and I was listening.
Deborah Taylor, yeah.
Yes.
You know, he tried to rape her. Her father was just a nutcase.
Yes.
And in the docu-series, I did 5 on the Silver Dollar Room of the Klan. One thing that I didn't know, it was really about money.
Yes.
We always knew that the judges and the doctors and the lawyers, the sheriffs were part of the
Yes.
Klan. But one thing about the Silver Dollar Group, they never wore the white hooded.
No.
They just carried the silver dollar. That's what made them different and more heinous. They used to take us black people and wrap the barbed wire around us
Yes.
and put us in the bayous. And so they were one of the most heinous groups, but the guy who wrote Devil's Walking, the book, who's nominated for a Pulitzer Prize about the Silver Dollar Group of the Klan, he's a white man, and he's the editor of the paper there in Fairley. The paper, but he wrote this book, Devil's Walking. And he did so much in-depth information on how this is the first time it ever came to any light. But Deborah was already out there looking for these people that are fathered to ask for forgiveness. And when I had them meet on my show, she came in from Tennessee. She lives in Tennessee, which is where the Klan started, which I didn't know until I investigated for the show. And by some Army guys that had started, some Civil Rights Army people. Civil War Army people. And she asked for forgiveness. He said, it's not your fault. You had nothing to do with what your daddy did. And they just hugged and kissed, and then they're still friends today. So it makes me feel good to bring truth-seeking and to bring love. I said, this is about love. That story was about love, even about the Klan. Well, let's talk about some things today on Whistleblowers. Let's talk about, so you do so much. What happened to the black farmers? I remember they were on one show that I was came on before or after
still,
them.
the way they're beating them, in my opinion, is through premises ID. And we fought that 10, 11 years ago. It had nothing at the time to do with the black farmers that I knew of. Okay, and premises ID is actually a conveyance of the title of property. And premises is covered in international law of contracts. Carries no constitutional protections. Property, the word property, is constitutionally protected. So we're trying to con everybody into signing up for premises ID. This was a conveyance of title to your property to be gathered by USDA.
So the government, USDA, Department of Agriculture, takes over your property.
And they can sell it without reserve, meaning without notice to you. Up across the Midwest there, especially in Wisconsin, many farmers were put on premises ID because nobody would fill out an application. When you fill out any application, you are applying to enter into contract. You don't know that. Most people don't realize that. And so you have contracted, but to make a contract valid, the parties to it must know all the provisions. Well, they weren't. And they were putting these farmers on premises ID, which put them in a whole unprotected category that common law was
This
available.
was under Obama's administration. I remember they were marching in Washington about 4 years ago.
Yeah,
and I never saw it covered. I didn't see it on television covered.
Yeah, and see, and I tried to do a live broadcast with Lawrence and Ron Cotton and all them from there, and the interference was so bad. It was so bad we couldn't get. Every time I'd get them up, you'd hear this piercing sound, and we'd go down.
Did anybody whistleblow on this? Are they ever here? Do they come to the
Yes.
Whistleblower Summit? I haven't seen
Normally
many
they're
of
here
them.
every year.
Yeah.
Last year I met Lawrence in person and
Okay, I didn't
Ron
know
Cotton.
they were here. I would have interviewed them last year.
Yes.
Well, let's talk about your show. How long have you been doing it, Marti?
I'm in my 11th year.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, you did say
Yeah.
11 years. And what made you start? Just like me, want to be a truth seeker?
Yeah,
truth
well,
teller?
I've done, before I ever started my own, I had done at least 100 interviews on various stations all over the country. I've always been politically involved or, issue involved. And a friend of mine in New York who had a radio show said, you need your own show. And I thought, I can't do that.
Yeah.
He said, I'll help you set up on Blog Talk and walk you through
Yeah.
it. And I thought, I can't do this. I can't do this.
And now 11 years later, you can do it, and you are doing it, you have done it, and we'll continue to do it because it's much, much needed.
A lot of times, Dianne, and you know this too, if it wasn't for shows like yours and mine, these people would have no voice. No voice.
How many people you see covering this?
Yes.
I'm paying like you. I'm paying my own way to get here, airing my show. It's my part to give back to the world that has been good to me.
Yes.
And so this is my way of helping get back. Although I'm looking for sponsors. If anybody out there wants to help sponsor these kinds of shows,
There you go. And that's the thing too. I'm always amazed that people will listen to mainstream media. There is nothing there. There is nothing.
Oh, I was
there.
at Boat Burger today, getting a veggie burger, and these young black kids were in there, and they were telling me all these things, and I said, I just want you to think about and look beyond Fox, CNN, or MSNBC.
Yes.
Look at all of them, and then go look at Pew Research and look at all these things that are going on. You like the opportunity zones. They never heard of the opportunity zones that really can help out the black community. There's 149 in Baltimore. We have them in Louisiana, in every state. I mean, it's multi-trillion dollars of money that can help rebuild some of these communities. So, somebody asked me, I'm just a person for what can help America. What can help black, white, red, or green? Yep. Because we all, and I was telling this young black girl I did something on black, white, blue lives matter. She said, really? I said, yeah, because all lives matter.
Yes.
It's not about black, I'm not saying black lives don't matter.
Yes.
But police lives matter too.
Yeah.
And policemen kill only about, people, when I ask, they tell me, how many blacks did they kill here? 10,000. I said, why don't you try the number 550? Go look that up on Pew Research. They kill more whites than they do blacks. And I say, any life is worth saving if it can be saved. But if somebody's shooting at you got to shoot back.
You know that when the Black Lives Matter movement came out, and people, I saw people all over the place going, "Oh, you just want special treatment." No, what they were saying was, "We matter as much as
That's
you
right,
do.
right.
We matter as much as
and
you
we do, and everybody.
Yes.
But so do police. I don't like to bash, like pouring the water on the Asian rookie in New York the other day, the rookie policeman. That's not fair to them either.
No, it isn't. But you have to look at, they have become so brutal. They are militarized. They're up under Homeland Security. They got all this military weapon. Who do you think they're intending to
Yeah, but
use
Marty, who
that
are you
on?
going to call first? When you got a
we
problem,
don't
who do you
call
call?
the police.
You're going to call the police?
No,
You don't
we
call
don't.
police?
No.
I was talking about when I did Alton Sterling. It was a black guy who called the police on him because he was stealing his, he sold CDs. And he was stealing his CDs, and he was trying to steal his money. So Alton had started locking them up in the store where they killed him. So he was one who called the police lying on Alton Sterling, and that's why they came. So I like to get to the root of everything, and not just listen to what you see on TV or what you think happened. I still do think, and I said that I think he was killed, and that policeman got away. I mean, under the Department of Justice, under Eric Holder, they let that guy go. It doesn't matter whether it's under Trump or Obama. All of them got away.
Thank you.
So there's a problem in America about what's justice. Tamar Rice, to kill a 12-year-old in Cleveland. I've done a show on every one of those.
Yep.
And there were more than they are today for some reason. But Tamar Rice, a black woman called. See, I get behind the story too. A black woman called the police and said there's a little boy playing in the park.
Yeah.
And he may have it's a gun. I don't know what kind it is. Why not? If he was the only person in the park.
Yeah.
Can you guess the black guy in the beauty salon to go over there and check this boy out? Sometimes we don't need to call all the time.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, he wasn't shooting anybody. It was only him. He was a little boy.
Yes.
You really think it's a real gun?
Yeah, it
so
wasn't.
she was looking out of the window, and they lived around the park. His mother heard about it on television with Tamar Rice. So that policeman killed that boy,
executed
dropped
him.
him dead, and they did nothing. So what do you think of the whistleblowers this year as compared to some of the other years?
I was amazed at how many people came to travel across the country. I know from my own panel, we had people there from 14
Well, that was a great panel. I did Gretchen. I interviewed Gretchen yesterday.
Did you? Oh,
yeah, and I was telling her to stay in
Yeah.
journalism. Don't let that incident in Michigan dissuade her from doing it.
That was such an
She's sick of
extensive
it.
interview she's done. And I mean, she is so meticulous.
She
so
is.
meticulous.
Yeah, you could tell she had every detail covered, but she got it. It didn't go anywhere.
No.
We could tell it was a bunch of crooked people.
Yes, because it touched too many high-level people.
That's right. That's right.
And so that protection racket closes in,
That's
and
right.
those doors started shutting.
In fact, my show will probably be the first one that really tells the truth because I don't think anybody else
It does.
has let it be, on television, that has let it be shown.
I was
Has she?
surprised here, Dianne, here in D.C., that so few people knew about the Whistleblower Summit.
Me too. They don't know it here.
No.
We're going to have to talk to them ourselves. We're going to have to do a better job of getting it out in their own backyard.
But the one thing I will say about D.C. is, compared to where I live, there's people out walking around and they're talking. People will talk to you.
Right. Oh, it's
And,
very, I love
just-
these.
Yeah,
I love
very
this city.
social.
Yeah, I love
very
this city.
social.
Like I said, I spent an hour talking to some black kids in Boat Burger, and I showed them opportunities. I said, I never heard of it. I said, well, just look things up for yourself.
Yes.
And then if you like Trump, don't like Trump, like Obama, don't like Obama, you make that decision, but make it based on facts.
Yes.
That's all I say to people.
Yes.
Well, Marti, is there anything you would like to leave my audience today on? You want to solicit any stories? Whether you want to get your number where people can call you if they got some whistleblowers?
Well, like I say, we're TS Radio Network on Blog Talk. I'm Marti Oakley. You can look me up on the net. I'm all over the place. I know I'm on LexisNexis too, with supposedly a very high rating, and I have no idea what that means.
It's good. If it's high, it's always good if it's a rating for a show. Yeah.
So, but we welcome any kind of a report about anything. To be on my show, you must have documentation. We do not take hearsay or they did this, but I just can't. We don't do that.
Right.
And that's for my protection. That's for that guest protection.
That's right.
And so, but we'll cover just about anything. We are focused on guardianship, the euthanasia going on in hospice clinics, which we have assembled over 200,000 documents on. We've covered dialysis advocates,
yes,
and the whistleblower shows with the black farmers and whoever else. Lawrence and I, since I first started, Lawrence was actually my first guest for the whistleblower show.
Yeah,
so,
great.
Yeah.
Well, it's good. I think I met you briefly last year, but I didn't get a chance to get you on the show. We tried yesterday. You weren't feeling well, and now we finally got you on the show to spread the word on what you're doing, Marti, on my show. And I know if I come up with anything, I'll give you a call and be back on your show.
All right.
Thanks so much, Marti.
Excuse me, are you Dianne Andrews?
Yes, I am.
I'm Darius. I'm here to attend your leadership speech.
Oh, thank you for coming. That's wonderful.
I just bought one of your books.
Oh, thank you. Third Man Out. That was my first book. I have 4 now. What's your major? You're in college, right?
Yes, ma'am.
What are you majoring in?
Construction management.
I tell you, then this leadership management speech that I'm going to do will do you a lot of good.
Well, I always watch your show.
Oh, good. I'm on television and YouTube. I appreciate you watching. Are you headed to the event right now?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Come on, let's walk together and I can teach you and tell you some things about leadership and management.
Perfect.
Come on, let's go. Thanks for coming back to Dianne Andrews in Black and White. Those of you who keep up with Dianne Andrews have seen this gentleman with me before last year. That was the 7th Whistleblower Summit. This is the 8th here in Washington, D.C. We're still in the New York Press Club. This is Michael Carey. Thanks for being back with me, Michael, again this year. He is a civil and disabilities advocate for people in New York State. So tell us your journey since we talked to you last year. Tell us a little, just 60 seconds on why you're doing this, what prompted you to do this, and what's going on now.
Sure. So my son, Jonathan, was developmentally disabled. He had autism, and he was primarily nonverbal. Precious young man. He was in a private facility first, a facility supposed to help children with autism. Mm-hmm. And he was doing good there for a while, and then all of a sudden the facility was abusing him. They were withholding food and meals from him.
Remember that?
Behavior modification, and then they also were...
And you happened to go see him, and you saw he was losing weight, and you asked him about it, and...
Correct.
Yeah, a couple of times.
So we got him out.
Yeah.
Somebody helped us, gave us a document, subtly found out that, withholding food and meals. We can't care for Jonathan at home for another year. It got really difficult because he was severely damaged. On top of his disabilities, he was severely damaged because of the abuse. So he was diagnosed with PTSD. We didn't know the system itself, the mental health care system in New York State, was really extremely dangerous, which it is. We were unaware of that.
Now, he ended up going into a state facility,
right,
and that's where the demise happened.
Right. So a year and a half later, my son Jonathan was killed by his caregivers.
The orderlies took him out, right?
They took him out for a ride, two caregivers.
Yeah.
One was working 100-hour weeks, and the other one was basically, he never should have been even there.
They left him in the car, didn't they? Did they leave
no,
him in or choke him?
Let me mention this first because this is important. Is one of the caregiver that was right there was supposed to be within arm's length of my son, one-on-one aid, left my son unattended, and then the driver in the front of a 15-passenger van, who was exhausted.
Was it more than Jonathan in the van, or just Jonathan and those two?
And one other, Jonathan's friend, another disabled young man. Thankfully,
could he speak?
He was verbal, so he was able to tell the police what happened. But they the one fellow suffocated my son
on purpose. I mean,
well, it was a restraint. But, turns out there was other times he harmed Jonathan that was hidden by the facility, and that he really, turns out might have been more.
On purpose, malicious.
He was charged with manslaughter.
Did he go to prison?
He was convicted. He's still in prison.
Just the one, not the other one.
Well, the other one pleaded guilty to criminally negligent homicide, but he worked with the DA's office, so he got a lighter sentence. But he went to jail as well.
So tell us, and it was so hard, and you made a crusade for the rest of your life, it seems, after that happened, to work in civil and disability rights. And you helped some laws get changed in New York State. Correct. Tell us about that and then what's going on now.
So Jonathan's Law was the first one. That one opens up access to abuse investigation records and documents that the parents were unable to get. So when a facility abused or a staff member abused somebody in a group home or whatever, what they would do is they'd internally investigate, and then they'd seal the documents, and the families would ask for the documents and the reports, incident reports, etc., and you couldn't get them.
No way could you get them with a lawyer. No.
Well, I think if you filed a suit, you'd probably get some of the medical documents.
Yeah.
But they would, they could shred them at any time.
Right. You're supposed to keep all I've been in medical I owned a home health agency for the elderly and sleep labs. You're supposed to keep them for 7 to 8 years.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Well,
in Louisiana now, I don't know. I think that's federal too, though. But anyway. Yeah.
Well, New York State's an expert at concealing documents and evidence to protect the facilities and the negligent staff and the users, and they do not properly regard the safety
so you got that
human
changed.
Rights, civil rights.
Okay, Jonathan's Law has helped get that changed, yeah.
We changed it from a misdemeanor to a felony if you endanger the welfare of an incompetent or physically disabled person.
Wow.
We banned withholding of food or meals from
So that could even help nursing homes and older people in nursing homes who are treated poorly also?
Well, it needs to be done in there as well, but if they're disabled, the endanger the welfare
would come under
would cover that.
Yeah.
But
What's happened since last year?
the big one is the 911 Civil Rights Bill. I've been fighting for ever since. Believe it or not, there's still no required law to have caregivers call 911 regarding physical, sexual abuse, which are crimes, which are felonies, or even emergency medical situations or deaths. So I've been fighting to change that. I've had most of the legislators on the bill, but they still seem to block it from getting through to the floor for a vote. So even when I've got to the legislators, the majority, three-quarters of them.
They don't want to get that changed.
Right.
For some reason.
So the big news that's just come out in the last few weeks is that the agency that Governor Andrew Cuomo set up to supposedly protect the disabled, which was a complete fraud. They call it the Justice Center for the Protection of People with Special Needs. So they circumvent 911. And that's how they cover up the crimes and the deaths, thousands of them.
So they never get reported as deaths.
Hardly ever. Yeah. Right. And then so it just was deemed by the appellate division that agency's been operating basically illegally and unconstitutionally by bypassing all the county elected DAs. So that just came out.
Well, that's good. And you keep on your journey. And I'm sure when we come next year, you'll even have more good news about the 911. Thank you, Michael. Thank you for being here.
How do you see the world?
At Shriners Hospitals for Children, we know that changing how you see things can turn them into everyday miracles.
Like riding my bike.
Breaking boards. Hugging my mom.
Every day for over 90 years, Shriners Hospitals for Children has been sending love to the rescue, regardless of a family's ability to pay.
If you know a child we can help, call or go online now.
Thanks for coming back to the show here at the National Press Club, the beautiful, elegant press club here in Washington, D.C. And this is a dinner at the Whistleblowers Summit. And again, it's the 8th annual summit. It's my 4th time being here. And I have another media personality with me today, Juliet Fairley. And Juliet is
Juliet Fairley.
Fairley, I'm sorry, Juliet. And Juliet works for Newsmax, has a column in Newsmax magazine. So, but we're going to talk to her about other things, but specifically about guardianship.
Yeah.
I've done a show yesterday on guardianship and wanted to see. Let's talk about your father and the journey you had with your father and what happened in Texas. She lives in New York.
Yes.
Her father was in San Antonio, Texas.
Yes.
He was a person of 3 wars, so he really dedicated himself to this country.
Absolutely.
The Korean, the Vietnamese, and the World War II, all 3. How long was he in
He had a
military?
lot
20 years or
22
something?
years. He had a lot of war pay.
Yeah, coming in. So that was part maybe of the...
He had war pay built up that couldn't be dispersed until he was gone.
Oh, they don't pay the war pay until you're deceased.
They pay your spouse.
The spouse.
From what I
and your mother
understand.
was still living.
Yes.
So let's talk about it. Tell us a little bit about what happened specifically with your father and what you tried to do when you went down to Texas from New York, and what happened with some of the relatives in this guardianship in the court, as much as you can tell, because it's still an active case.
Yes. So, yes, it's currently being litigated in the Fourth Court of Appeals. So I'm a little bit limited, but I'll just say that back in, I would say, early 2000, like around 2010, 2011, I noticed that my father wasn't receiving medical care, and
was he still in his home, or was he in a home?
Yes, he was in our home, and wasn't getting his medications, and I thought it was really strange, and I started going to the VA and asking them, I went to patient advocacy, I went to all these
down in
social
Texas,
workers.
you went to the VA. Did you start looking up here in New York just to ask general questions?
I was in Texas because I didn't know what else to do, and I figured the VA would look out for him.
About what year was this? How long ago?
About 2010 to 2012.
And he passed in
2018, December 27th.
Last year. Not even a year. Not even a year.
Right. So, I went to the VA thinking that they would help this military veteran, and they really did nothing. When I told them he wasn't getting his medication, that he wasn't getting to his doctor's appointments, that there seemed to be a plan to undermine his health, they didn't do anything. So I kept going to the VA because I didn't know where to go, and somebody said to me, why don't you just try to get guardianship? Go to the court and try to get guardianship. And I went there in good faith. I figured, well, he's a veteran, they'll take care of him, they'll do the right thing. They said justice for all when I was growing up, when we said the Pledge of Allegiance.
Yeah, right.
I really believe.
Did they take that out of school? And that may be a problem.
I know they took the prayers out of school.
Did they take the Pledge of Allegiance? So we need it back if they did.
I know.
Yeah.
So, but when I went to the court, what I found out was that they consider you a whistleblower. They don't consider you a concerned family member who's trying to look out for your mother or your father. They consider you a whistleblower and a nuisance.
I did a show I mentioned to you yesterday with a journalist who did a case of extreme amount of good journalism in Michigan. And we were talking about guardianship on that show. It seems to be, I did a show last year with Yolanda Bell on guardianship about her sister that they ended up killing and taking guardianship over her. And she was her sister and lived in the house with her. It is amazing what the courts can do with guardianship, what that judge can do.
There's a woman in Florida that went to women's prison for 2 years because she took her mother to lunch. And the state of Florida considered that to be interfering with the state
guardianship rules. Property. Her mother was under guardianship by someone else under
in
that
Florida.
court.
Yes, and she did not realize what her mother was involved in. She took her to lunch across the street at the Denny's, from what I understand. And the next thing she knows, she was getting arrested because she had to ask the guardian for permission.
So she was doing something illegal by taking her
mother to lunch, and she went to prison.
She went to prison for this.
Yes, her name was Barbara Stone. She's still alive, and she went to Women's Ocala prison, and she was released.
But 2 years of her life.
Yes, I believe it was 2 years. I don't know the exact details.
Even if it's 2 months, it's too long for taking your own mother, unless it was a court order that she had harmed her mother, and she wasn't supposed to see. It was none of that.
No, it was not.
Thanks so much for the good interview.